think it's prudent that we begin. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been an incredible 2 days. We are getting to the very last of our network sessions. And of course, it's always good to hear from the relevant authorities, so to speak. So without further ado, please help me welcome, speaking on Transfrontier's tourism implications to local development, Kaza Seimy Shidute-Christof from the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism.
Thank you so much, Eshwan. Thank you. I'm pleased to be among you today and to speak on behalf of government. I'm actually happy that we are clustered together with the previous topic by Bailey, because my topic will just be an extension of his presentation. He was talking from a community, local, and national context. And when we speak about Transfrontier, I'm going to talk about regional. It's almost just an expansion of those boundaries. I would like, on behalf of MEFT, to thank NMH and Albi as a CEO and also in his personal capacity. We really want to commend you, and we are grateful for your passion and vision, and mostly for actualizing it really by creating this tourism expo and the networking session. Because you create a platform not only for the tourism, but actually for the whole business fraternity. And it's just unfortunate that I don't see business people here, because really existing business and prospective or aspiring entrepreneurs who are interested whether in any other sector such as health, transport, construction, retail, supply of goods and services really ought to be here. Because tourism is that one industry that creates business opportunities for all other sectors, for most, if not all. So, and I'm now delighted to talk about Transfrontier Tourism or Transfrontier Conservation. This speaks directly to the theme of this year's Expo, beyond borders, and it's also very much befitting for the time and period we are at. Emerging from a 73% plunge in international travel in 2020 due to COVID-19, it is absolutely crucial that as we are now trying to put all the identified strategies into action, we need to really expand our horizon and our parameters of opportunities in order for us to really recover back to the pre-COVID-19 levels and boost our economy in general. So one such area that government has identified that will actually enable us to expand our parameters of opportunities for the tourism sector is the Transfrontier Conservation areas, creation of Transfrontier Conservation Area, which speaks to Transfrontier Tourism. Now, the Namibian government has gone into partnership with neighboring countries under the SADC umbrella to create these multi-dimensional regional networks that are aimed at promoting tourism. The main core of those networks are actually ecological and biodiversity conservation. But I'm not an environmentalist, neither a wildlife conservation, so that is not an area that I'm going to venture in. So my focus of the talk today is really to look at those nature conservation, those approaches or practices of nature conservation. how they are of importance to promote tourism and how they are providing or creating opportunities for tourism growth and development. The government has created, currently we have 3 TFCA, Transfrontier Conservation Area, TFCAs. There have been talks of some people always talk about the Kalahari TFCA, but they have not been still official talks about the Kalahari. It's not yet into creation at all. Nothing is really. So these are the formal TFCA that Namibia currently has with a neighboring country. We have the first one, the IS Richterveld TFCA, that is on our southern borders with our neighbor South Africa. This is a conservation area of almost 5,920 square kilometers in extent, and it covers the Richterveld National Park and the IS Hot Spring National Park from a Namibian side, and we are the biggest component of that transfrontier with almost 69% of the extent of that transfrontier. The second one is the Kavango Zambezi TFCA, which is 520,000 square kilometers, and this makes it the biggest TFCA in the world. This is a TFCA that boosts 3 World Heritage sites. We have the Vig Falls, we have the Kavango Deltas. That is one of those 2 major World Heritages. The third and the last one that we have is the Iona Skeleton Coast TFCA, that is along the northwest borders of Namibia with Angola. It stretches over the coastal area of Namibia into the Angolan coastal area. It covers the Iona National Park and the Skeleton Coast National Park, but there are already talks to extend that TFCA into a 3-nation Namib Desert TFCA that will include the Namib No-Cleft Park, the Speergebied, the Namibia West Coast Conservation Area, the Walvis Bay Swakopmund Conservation Areas, and the Skeleton Coast itself, and that will extend its coverage to about more than 107,000 kilometers, making square kilometers, and it's going to make it the first biggest national park in Africa once that is done. Already the extent of those transfrontiers, I hope you can already understand the extent of those transfrontiers, how much expansion in terms of opportunities it's bringing to us. Because of those features that it's provide in terms of the rich natural biodiversity, it creates opportunity. Just the TFCA in itself, we call it Transfrontier Tourism, but just that concept in itself is creating other categories of tourism offering because of its nature. The conservation itself creates opportunities in terms of cultural and heritage tourism. Those natural features or endowment in those TFCA create opportunities for sport tourism. It creates opportunities for film and photography tourism. It creates opportunities for cruise and boat safari, cruise tourism along the Orange rivers, along the Zambezi rivers. It creates opportunities, I mentioned about the cultural craft, arts and craft, and even our African gastronomy. Those are some of the type of tourism within an overall umbrella network of Transfrontier that is created, that is generated by conservation. Now, it has also some direct impact or opportunities that it creates for the sector itself, the tourism sector, which is, it creates opportunities for the destination management companies, for travel agencies, for tour operators, tour guides. Already, currently, as we see it as a destination, we are unable to cater for the demands of tourists in terms of accommodation during the high seasons. Now, with the creation of the expansion of boundaries or parameters that are created by the TFCA, that creates in itself opportunities for accommodation establishment. Now, the opportunities are enormous as a result of this TFCA or Transfrontier tourism that we are talking about. It also have indirect, as we know that tourism is a sector that has a ripple effect on the economy, on other sectors. So it has also some indirect opportunities, economic opportunities that it creates for the sectors, for the health sectors. Now having these regional networks, it gives us the opportunities for health facilities, spa and wellness. We can use, for example, along the Zambezi, Kavango-Zambezi Transfrontier. Those are opportunities for us to create a new airport, to create a new transit hub for those 5 countries that are in partnership there. There is opportunities into the transport industry. We are talking about coaches, buses, car hire, taxi services in terms of the transport offices. Even before I go that, for accommodation, it creates opportunities for the construction. For the construction industry, we need environmental friendly solution, construction methods. So this already is an opportunity. It creates opportunities for the energy sector. We need energy, environmental friendly solution in terms of the energy supply for our accommodation facilities. We need solutions for waste management, because all is about sustainable development. Conservation is about sustain. So everything that we are going to do, or the opportunities in there, has to speak to the ecological biodiversity conservation and protection. So, and which are currently not there. So those are new developments that has to come, that has to go along with a transfrontier tourism concept. It creates opportunities for arts and craft, as I earlier mentioned. So it brings or it generates really a spirit of entrepreneurship into the local and local community or rural community. Mind you that most, if not all, of these TFC are in rural areas. So then it means it promotes, it creates a rural, really it's a platform to generate development in a rural areas, bringing hope to our people where there were where there were limited opportunities. I've already discussed on that one. So, but what I personally think is the most important, whether advantage or opportunities that transfrontier tourism creates, is the fact that these transfrontier conservation areas provides, is the fact that it responds to the future trends, in tourism. The emerging niche or the new traveling styles and the expectation from tourism or travelers currently or for the future are into ecotourism. Tourists are interested in destinations that are really focusing towards protecting and conserving, the environment and the nature. They are into cross-border tourism. They want hassle-free or seamless travels that provide multiple activities and multiple destinations, you know. So this TFC give us that opportunity to provide hassle-free or seamless travel, because we go jointly into a cooperation where we both agree to conserve, develop, and provide products that that are making, you know, that are making that are attracting travelers to our destinations. And we are into the concept of thinking of creating like a Univisa. We have already created one for Kavango Zambezi, where you just need to apply for one visa and you are able to travel, you know, along all the 5 countries without, you know, having to adhere to different immigration regulations and policies. But it's currently in a pilot phase. We've started with the piloting, but the aim and objectives is really to work towards a similar arrangements like we know of in Europe. You might have heard about the Schengen visa, where you can just apply for it, any given country that are within that jurisdiction, and then you are able to travel to more than 5, 6, 7, 8 countries with just that one visa, and that makes their destination competitive and attractive. And that's what the TFCA also are providing. They provide that opportunity really for us. It provides opportunities for the creative industry, since I said most of these TFCA are in the rural areas. It provides opportunities for supply and goods and services, for opportunities for provision of financial and business services, because it also speaks to the maize industry. Now, the buzzword now on the maize event organizers and managers is green and sustainable maize. They are all looking for or moving towards destination that are really providing, that are into sustainable tourism for their events. So that is the trend. And it also responds to adventure tourism. The expectation or the preference now for adventure is also really multiple adventure activity, and the TFC are providing for such multiple adventure activities. I can give you an example of the IIS rector field. We have some of the activities that we are currently already jointly has developed and are promoting as partners of the TFC between ourselves and South Africa, such as the Desert Night mountain cycles. We have the Richterfield Wild Run, and we also have the Namib Desert or desert canoeing or kayaking. So these are, apart from providing the attraction in terms of the beauty that we offer, the scenery, it also gives those adventure travels, you know, other offerings that they can come and enjoy while they, you know, visiting our destination. So the opportunities are enormous, and all these areas that I've listed here are calling for the participation of youth, you know. So the sustainability of the tourism sector, the growth and development of it requires the participation of the youth for you to take up these opportunities in terms of enterprise development in the tourism sector, to really respond to these needs and demands that are there in the sector and that are coming as a result of transfrontier conservation and transfrontier tourism. We've also, I wish the business sector were here, we've also already identified some of the investment investment projects that will require investment from the private, from the well-established private sectors. Now, that is the future trends that this conservation tourism and transfrontier tourism are responding to. I've already highlighted on some of the opportunities that are there in the sector. We talk about sport tourism, we talk about filming, filming tourism. We talk about safaris, whether water safaris or land safaris. We talk about the opportunities in terms of tour guiding. We recently, or we are busy with the development of a tour guide regulations that I mentioned yesterday, and in that, the survey that we conducted revealed that more than 57 tour guides currently in Namibia are above the age of 35. In that, it provides opportunities for the youth because of the aging tour guides, you know. Now, within the value chain of tour guide services already, there are numerous categories of opportunities in there. We need different type of tour guides, you know. Those that are currently studying tourism, I hope you already get to know of the different types of tour guides. You need a tour guide just for the lodge. We can have tour guides for lodges. We can have tour guides for sites, heritage sites. We can have city tour guides. We have guides that are just focusing on culture and heritage. We have cruise guides or boats guides or marine guides, you know. So the economic opportunities are so vast in terms of in the tourism sector for everybody. Now, the economic impact on the communities adjacent and around the conservation areas is that really they can turn their non-productive means or resources around into productive means. For example, we have our way of living where we use we use donkey carts to ferry water. Now it's part of our history and culture, no? That can become now a mode of transport to, you know, to take around guides and tell them about your village or your areas. So we have this has been part of culture, really. Our traditional attires, the craft, these are all, this is part of our household items that are now turned into craft and can be so. So our way of living, you know, we don't have to go look around for things that are not there. Is to use the resources around ourselves to turn them into economic commodity. The canoes that we use there currently for, you know, for catching fish and so on, are now used for safari tours, because tourists want to have that authentic experience, you know, the way how you live in. So people are trained how to do it safe and to make sure that tourists are safe. And also the economic impact what this brings is also development of infrastructure. Some of the places are currently not accessible, so we create now roads and the necessary infrastructure to some of the attraction because of the development that are happening there. This is a given, so with all these opportunities creates, you know, employment and income for the communities around there. So the tourism, or the transfrontier tourism, has a huge economic impact on the local economy and the national economy at large. It brings significant improvement in terms of livelihood. it really helped the community or the people at grassroots level realize the value of their resources and their assets and the assets around them, both the natural and cultural assets are around them. So the culture becomes a living. Currently, we are using, we are into farming, agriculture, so we turn those agricultural and our communal land into productive means through this transfrontier conservation. The scope becomes broader because now we can collectively package and promote the destination and also rights, on the other attraction within the destination. Like I mentioned, the Victoria Falls, which is a World Heritage Site, now that it's within the Kaza area, it's probably one of the preference by tourists wanting to come to Victoria Falls. They will also want to use that opportunity to also visit, the other side. And because we are also packaging it as a combined, as a joint destination, of course, Namibia is also benefiting through that. Vice versa, also for the other neighboring countries, they are also benefiting from the endowment and the attraction within our country. Yes, so with that, I would just like to end to say, Transfrontier Tourism means jobs, infrastructure, trade, and development for the local and for the Namibian economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very informative indeed. So, Ms. Maggie has been encouraging the youth to participate, and I think I feel inclined to assist her a little bit. So I'm going to ask two questions, but I would like just any two youths who just heard about Transfrontier Tourism, just think about one idea that you think could work across the border and just share it with us. Can we trust the youth to do that for us before the end of this session? Yes? All right, especially if you happen to live along those areas. So as I was listening, I can only imagine how much of a mammoth undertaking this was. This wasn't just about Namibia, this is collaborating with other countries. Are there any challenges you faced in establishing the TFCAs?
Yes. Like with anything, there are always challenges. And mind you, this is a cooperation between two different sovereign states. Those are states that all have their own regulation, law, legal frameworks, and so on. So the aspects of harmonizing some of our legal and policy framework it's one of the challenges that we have to overcome as a hurdle in order for us to be able to jointly really develop, promote, and market this destination as one.
All right.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, and then the last question I was going to ask, these communities are living very close to each other. And if we look far enough in the history of Africa, these communities did not have borders next to each other. Is there any way that the communities close to each other across borders are learning about each other? Because if we're selling a package, and I want to perhaps assist you into getting into Zambia, it would be really great if I have a lot of information about what's happening in Zambia. So are these communities connected in any way? Is there some form of skills sharing? Because of course there's different levels of development in each of the countries. But I do believe, perhaps we could all learn from each other. Is there any connection?
Yes, definitely, because the success of TFCA hinges on the involvement of communities. It's about community taking ownership and control of their own resources and their destination. So it is very critical for all of them, as neighbors, to have the same understanding so that they can have the common goal and common purpose, and also and really jointly work in a harmonious way. Yes, there are those understanding that we provide through capacity building and training. Obviously, it will not come in itself, yes. And also one of the enabling factor for us to be able to create such TFC is the commonality in terms of cultures, of cultures between our countries. So that helps very much. So there is definitely a close cooperation and collaboration and understanding.
Wonderful.
Yes.
All right, I shall open up the floor. The gentleman from Oranjemund, do you have an idea for us? All right.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for the message was very much clear and of course interesting. I really want to thank the Ministry of Environment, Tourism and Forest and Tourism. I think to me it's one of those ministries that is trying the best, and I'm so much impressed on the work that is being done. Maybe we need to extend that effort to the minister himself, because that's good leadership that I have observed. So, if I think it's maybe we are not trendsetters in terms of this community conservations and how we intend community to benefit from the resources. Perhaps in a few years, we will be the role models where other countries perhaps can come and learn from us. And my concern was just on the, perhaps maybe the influx of tourists that might come into through these close borders that may also have impact on the ecosystem. Do the ministry perhaps have ongoing research that is done in terms of putting up, maybe understanding what damage might come indirect into the ecosystems, and perhaps if there are also what are those mitigations and resistant plans that are put in place, and also in line perhaps including the relations with fundings for youth or students in the higher institutions of learning. So that's my question. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the compliments. I will definitely pass it on to our Honorable Minister and the entire management of the ministry. Yes, for your last part of the question, the development of TFCA or conservation in general is based on those principles of development in a sustainable way, meaning development without causing any harm to the natural fabric of the area, so of the ecological or the biodiversity space. So those are the key elements of our conservation. And I must inform you, Namibia is currently world-renowned for conservations. We are actually already serving as a trendsetter and a benchmark for the world in terms of conservation.
And I believe our environmental laws were the first, some of the first to be embedded in the Constitution, yes?
Yes, Namibia is one, if not the single, state that has the environmental embedded, the environmental protection and management embedded in its constitution. So that is a priority, and that's why currently we always consider ourselves as not a mass destination because of those principles of conservation, you know. But even if we have to be a mass, whatever we do, the travelers that we are attracting also to our destination are those that want to be conscious, you know, of conservation and sustainable. So it's not just about conserving in terms of wildlife and natural resources, but also in terms of our operations, you know, within the tourism enterprises, you know, the way we use our water, the way we use our energy, you know, the way we dispose of our waste, you know. So it's a way of life in terms for the tourism sector, and that's why we pay very much attention to really the measures necessary for us to protect our natural environment. So you asked something about internship. Did I hear you talking about internship?
Yes, I was just asking if there are plans in terms of ongoing research, understanding maybe perhaps this infrastructure, what would be indirect and direct impact into the border cities, and what is the relation maybe currently with the higher institutions of learning to see if their funds are available to induce these students to conduct more research, and of course with funds available to undertake that activities or studies.
Yes. In fact, our ministry has a fully fledged directorate that are responsible for research. So we are very much research oriented as a ministry in terms of our work that we are doing for both for environmental management and also for general wildlife conservation. So we have ecological centers almost in Etosha where we do our research for whatever we are doing. So everything that we do is based, if not all, if not most, are based on research factors. Yes, data.
Okay. There was a lady at the back.
We do make budgetary provision for what we are doing for our mandate, because that is our mandate. So we need to make provision for that in order for us to execute that. And we have, I don't know, we are probably one of the ministry that also have a high rate of training in terms of really giving opportunities for young people, whether our employees, to really go train and become expertise in the area of our mandate. You know, we have a long-lasting program with NAST and also even with universities abroad in South Africa, where we send our staff to go study up to master's level, you know, to really become experts in the field of our mandate.
I've seen 3 hands. If I could just see them again. I see the lady at the back, the lady in the front, and Gita. All right, so we'll just start in the front, we'll head over to Gita, and then we'll head over to the back, if that's okay. Just before you get into your question, if it's okay, is the gentleman from the European Union here with us? I believe I saw him yesterday. Hello, sir. I'd love to hear some thoughts before the end of this. If you're seeing any correlations or any signs of how this, just your personal perspective, considering how things are working well in Europe. Just from this, I'd just love to see if there's any comparisons and anything you might see that we're doing heading in the right directions. If you could indulge me, please continue. Sorry, sir, we'll come to you. No worries, sorry. I was just posing the question so you could prepare and then we'll sing to you. All right.
Thank you so much for the information you provided today. As a student, it changed my perspective. When most of us study tourism, we don't really study it to work in Namibia, right? We study it more to travel around the world or so forth. Today you have showed us more than what we study. And I just want to say, mostly when we study tourism, we don't really get the view of it. We don't travel to see the view of it as students. Sometimes it's funding, you don't have money to pay to go for the tours that the school operates, or sometimes you just can't, right? So I would like to, to suggest that maybe we can have funding from you as well to be able to go and see tourism for ourselves before you hire us. Because some of us, we don't have the passion for it. We are just studying it. You get what I'm saying? We are just studying it. But if you go out there and you see how tourism is, first year, for example, and you go out, see how tourism is, you get to get ideas to contribute to it. But right now we just study and finish, and then we look for internship, but we are not sure it's what we want.
Okay.
I think that's a very fair opinion.
Yeah. That's a very honest.
Very honest.
That's a very honest,
Very honest indeed, yes.
opinion. Yeah.
I wish somebody had paid for my travel because I worked for my travel because I've got passion for tourism. And I think the attitude, if the universities have a course on attitude, approach to work, I think that's the first one. If you want to work in tourism, you have to have passion and attitude, and then your road is open because the road takes you there without funding. Promise. The work takes you there. Seimy Shidute, thank you very much. And you actually spoke to the theme of this year, which is Beyond Borders. And I think Transfrontier Tourism has huge potential for us in Namibia. You said it so wisely. You know, some of these iconic places, the heritage sites of other countries, such as Wick Falls, actually are part of our little product now here as well. I'd like to, without wanting to put you on the spot, the uni visa has been on the cards now for, I think, 10 years. In 2013, UNWTO actually had a pilot study done already. They had their conference between Wick Falls and Livingston to test it out. Last year I was in Kasane for a big Africa Eden trade show where Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Namibia marketed itself as Africa's Eden because we feel that part of Africa is Africa's Eden, and Africa's Eden is here where we are. We try to sell ourselves to not only the source markets that we know here in Namibia, and that's mainly Central Europe, but there were a lot of Americans, East Europeans, Asians that came to Kasane where the trade fair was, and some of these people had flown in either to Wick Falls or to Kasane, and when they heard about Namibia, they said, oh, can we have a look at some of your places? And literally, some of the places were just across the river, which you could actually swim across if it weren't for the crocodiles. And that person, that guy from Poland, couldn't make it to our beautiful Choba Villa because of the visa regime. And we have to mileage on the fact that some people fly into Wick Falls. The international airlines fly into Wick Falls. Wick Falls is much closer to our Transfrontier Casa area than Windhoek is. And we want to leverage on the incoming tourists that come via Wick Falls or via Kasane and not have them stop at Kasane because of our visa regime. What kind of push is coming from your ministry, from our cabinet, to really push for uni visa to be implemented once and for all? And I'd also like to hear from the European Union as to what obstacles are there that we can push aside, because once the people enter either Namibia or Botswana or Zambia, they shouldn't be stopped at Impalila Island to have their passport stamped. So yes, it's one thing to have a uni visa, but if we make them stop at every border post for passport control, that also doesn't work. So what kind of push is there from our government, because Namibia needs it. We need it more than Zambia and Zimbabwe need it because they've got the incoming flights into that area. We need it to be able to have those clients come to Namibia. Thanks.
Now, thank you, Gita. Yes, the uni visa is still on the table. It is both the partner countries are still strongly in agreement to proceed with it. In fact, we have elevated it now to a SADC level to just iron out some of the hurdles that are still there, and that is mostly around the harmonization of the regulations, the legal framework, but we are all positive that that is the way to go, and that is it's urgently needed, especially given now the time we at, and really responding to the future trends that I've spoken about. Everybody knows that this is the product, offering that we need to provide in order for us to attract really the tourism, because their preferences and the trends now are requiring us to move to that. So we are trying to sort out the issues of putting in the integrated systems, in terms of application, like the online application, the fee structures, and then a few areas in terms of the laws that we need to harmonize. So we hope to really get there as sooner. Yes.
Gita, you mentioned something about Africa's Eden. I was Googling the other day Africa's original names, and one of Africa's old names was Al-Kebulan, which directly translates to the Garden of Eden. So closer than you think. All right, the lady at the back, if you could please give her the microphone.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ma'am. I am Atusha Mavanenwa. I just wanted to ask a question regarding the pilot visa you mentioned earlier. I wanted to find out how effective is it, and let's say in terms of, will it be more beneficial towards tourists, or how beneficial will it be to our regional people, like the Namibians themselves? Let's say, because for Botswana, we've currently all heard that we would just need our IDs and we can freely go into Botswana. And so how effective will the pilot visa be? And also the duration, how long will it be? Yes, thank you.
All right. Perhaps I can say regional visa is already proven to be an effective means for providing really, or for attracting tourists and providing a seamless travel for travelers, in that you only need to go to one point of contact in terms of the country to apply for a visa to visit a number of countries in there that share borders and that has a common whether economic arrangement, in our case like economic arrangement in terms of tourism development for the visa. So for the pilots that we have done so far with Zimbabwe and Zambia, it was quite effective, and that's why we still hold the position to proceed, to really see it realized, to proceed with that. Yeah.
All right. Sir, is the microphone close to you? If you could please give it to the gentleman. Thanks, Casey.
So, what is your question exactly?
I just wanted to know your observations, just looking at this, considering that systems like this are more or less well established in Europe, and we are just starting here in Africa. Do you have any observations?
Yeah.
Any practices we could learn from you?
Well, difficult to... I can only talk in very general terms, and the effect that it has on the youth in Europe, as I was mentioning yesterday, now traveling from Athens to Dublin to Helsinki, through Helsinki or whatever, Lisboa, is the young generation, they have this feeling of being in Europe and in the same country. And this is an ongoing process. There are, I think, 27 countries now that are part of the Schengen area. Yeah. And it includes as well associate countries like Norway, who is not part of the EU, for example. And what makes also it easier is the Eurozone. 20 countries now using the same money, currency. And the latest one, it's also work in progress. The latest one was Croatia, for example, a few months ago. So so I guess this is probably the biggest success story of Europe. I mean, this feeling of being able to travel so freely and in terms of sharing cultures, practices, tradition, etc. It's just amazing. And we have this program in Europe that you all know of, which is Erasmus+, that we are trying to implement here. I mean, and I believe in it a lot. I mean, extend it to Africa, and I hope I'm also in charge of this program, so we can also talk about that and how to promote this bridging, between the youth, because I believe personally that this is really the future of the world in general. But I mean, this bridging between Europe and Sub-Sahara Africa through these programs, I mean, that is something that we keep pushing, and the EU is very much aware of that. There are many programs and sub-programs addressing this particular support to youth exchanges and mobility that we should capitalize on more and more. So anyway, this can be the subject of another meeting, but anyway, and yesterday I was mentioning the creation of this youth sounding board, we call it, having 15 to 20 youth from the country, different area, different region, different social, cultural background, etc., that we would work with us, and within the EU to share our values and contribute to them, but also to share the concerns. And concern number one is jobs. We are all aware of that, so we can also bring in our own contribution to that, and we are very, very keen on doing that. I mean, basically.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
Well
you.
answered. Thank you very much. All right.
I think is very right on making a reference to the youth, how that really is having an effect on the youth in Europe, and really how it really create that economic opportunities for all these countries to really benefit from an influx of travelers.
And Africa has the youngest population.
Exactly.
The most youth in the
Yes,
world.
the most youth. And to just give an example, a real example, in fact, myself, as we speak, my son is actually on a Europe tour. He's on a work-away program. He just finished high school, but he took a gap year before he goes to university in September. And he went on this work-away program. It's a volunteer work where you go just work as a volunteer to get experience in terms of cultures and work and so on. And we just had to get one visa. We didn't have to apply. He's going to work in 6 Europe countries.
Wow.
But we only had one visa for him. We didn't have to apply for a visa for him for Italy, for France, for Belgium, for England, for Holland. And it's all countries that is actually being traveling or working on a volunteering basis.
What's his Instagram handle? I'm not interested in what he's doing. Is he on Instagram?
Yeah.
Yes.
With the young ones, they are always on those social
Absolutely.
media and so on. But he's on and he's spending money. All he has to do, he just buy a train ticket, to move from one country to another. He doesn't have to go to any border, control and so on, because wherever he find himself, if he happen to be questioned by a law enforcement officer, in whichever country he is, he's already,
He's prepared.
he's already sorted.
All
Yeah.
right. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I will take one more question. Fortunately, it's a networking session. Fortunately, you are at the Tourism Expo. There's plenty to do until 10 p.m. And part of that could be getting to know the people in this room. Last question from the lady at the back.
Thank you. Mine is a question on human and wildlife conflict management. how have you been managing? And in cases where they have cases of conflicts, how have you managed? Are there policies that have been set aside? Like, do you compensate in cases of damages, like collectively, or it's an individual thing?
Yes, as I said, we are renowned for being one of the
progressive.
best countries in terms of conservation, and that includes wildlife, human-wildlife conflict management. Yes, we've got a human-wildlife conflict management policy in place, and we've got also a human-wildlife compensation plan in place where if a wildlife damage, crop field or properties, those properties are, those owners are compensated. There are already like prescribed fees for every type of damage, or in the event of loss of life, we also compensate, and we actually, in fact, cover the cost even of the burial and so on. Yes, we do have that.
So as we close off, all right, I can't avoid Maggie. I can't. Quickly, Maggie, if possible. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's rather just a comment, and really just to thank Seimy for a class that we set in. It was really a class, including myself. Transfrontier corridors or corners, as she have just said them. We had Napoth earlier, who was talking about funding and how youth, young people can access opportunities in tourism in terms of being entrepreneurs. And I think the opportunities were just put forth. The answer or the slides on funding, on opportunities was just answered right there. So the final year student, there is opportunity for you to become an entrepreneur. And this is the funding mechanism right here. So I think already from tomorrow, you are already jotting down the proposals that were requested by Napoth, so that you can see how you can already get into tourism as operators and entrepreneurs, and not just travel. My understanding of tourism as a young person was that I want to be in tourism because I want to travel. I did not have this understanding. But as I grew up and grew learning about tourism, I got to know that it's not only about travel. Thank you. I will definitely have to invite Albi to close off the session.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Seimy Shidute-Christof, Deputy Executive Director at the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism.
I enjoy traveling the world, and sometimes the world is just next door. But what I enjoy more every time is coming back home. And every time I land at the airport or cross the river, anytime we cross rivers if we come from neighboring countries, it is so wonderful to be in Namibia. And that is not possible without the conducive environment that this government has given us. So I really want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. And when you start defining government, you have to get very practical. Otherwise, you sort of just make a general statement. And yes, things are written in constitutions which are wow, and I'm very proud of our constitution as well. But ultimately, it's the environment that your ministry has created for this country. It's really a story of the world, not because it's in our constitution, because it makes sense. Not just makes sense to the business community, it makes sense to the local communities. The story of our conservancies is just a wow story. So our challenge is to take that further. And that's why our theme is around Beyond Borders. And that's why these transfrontier engagements, and according to me, including the Kalahari, is an important part of this, what we have to share to make it more accessible to the world. I just want to check at the back there whether the video and or slide is ready. I apologize. So let's start with the slide. So they say if you don't have some vision or imagination or some engagement, and it was mentioned earlier about, I can never remember the right name, but for the lack of a better example, that visa that allows you to go all over the place. Just imagine that we could travel that whole area without any paperwork. Imagine that your daughter and your son said that when he finished school, he went to Zimbabwe, Zambia, Botswana, Namibia, Angola, freely, without any issues. That he had to press one little button on the computer and it was done. The only reason that's not happening, it's us adults that are playing power games. So can us adults please start pretending, or stop pretending that in 1885 the world was cut off, and start realizing that we are one Africa. And Africa is a big place, so let's just start in that region. And when we solve that one, we go to Iona. When we solve that one, we handle Kalahari. And we solve that one, we handle Richtersveld. And then we go on. So this is not a Big Bang theory, everything is solved. But by far, this is the most focused area in the world. I did not say that. You did. It's called the Garden of Eden. And it's the most special place on earth for me. So allow me to finish with this video and say thank you for everybody for being here. And if you don't remember anything of the last today, remember this video. Thank you so much.
Rivers, they bring life. Without rivers, we don't have any life.
The freedom of movement by wildlife and the rivers that cut across countries, they teach us that despite having individual countries, we are just one big community.
Without coexistence, you basically be threatening the natural rhythm and harmony that you require for different species, for people, for biodiversity.
Kazang, the world's largest terrestrial conservation area. Between thundering waterfalls running through wide stretches of savanna, marsh, and rustling forest woodlands lies the Kavango and Zambezi rivers. This 520,000 square kilometer mosaic of majestic wilderness is a safari connoisseur's dream destination. With the goal of achieving a more sustainable coexistence between people and wildlife, the great nations of Angola, Botswana, Namibia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe came together in 2011 to establish the Kavango Zambezi TFCA.
Achieving coexistence in these complex landscapes we call TFCAs. You need coordination, collaboration, and understanding.
By establishing conservation corridors between protected areas, Kaza is home to the largest contiguous transboundary elephant population in the world and provides critical habitat for other endangered lion and wild dog populations, as well as 600 species of birds. To assist in managing human-wildlife conflict and link protected areas within the TFCA, it is essential for all the countries involved to work together in harmony with nature and each other.